Hi, everyone. Welcome to Good Enough Today, the podcast where we share stories from real people showing up authentically in their spaces, even when life gets tough. I'm your host, Cheremma Lee, and my guest today is Mr. Mark Swiss.
Mark Swiss, but I go by Mark the Bad Guy. Everybody in Houston, I go by Mark the Bad Guy.
Mark the Bad
Guy. Correct.
All right, we're going to talk about that a little bit.
For sure.
So we start every episode with your PEM on a scale from 1 to 10. How are you today, physically, emotionally, mentally?
Physically, I feel good, but, I do know that he's getting more fitness in myself. So I would say, is this a scale of 1 to 10, you said?
1 to 10. Mm-hmm.
I'm going with physically a 7.5.
Okay, that's pretty good.
I'm going physically 7.5. Emotionally, I'm going with a 9.5, 10.
Okay.
I'll go 9.5. 9.5.
This is lovely. Okay.
Yeah.
And mentally?
Mentally, I would say another 9.5.
Okay, you're rolling.
Yeah, I'm rolling. Things are flying right now. I'm definitely winning in a lot of parts of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And even a lot of my failures don't even seem like failures. They just seem like, just stepping stones to get into where I really want to go.
That's awesome. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's really where our conversation is about, is you get those failures and how do you move forward. But first, we're gonna back it up. And the second question I ask is, what's bringing you joy right now?
What's bringing me joy? I would say that what's bringing me joy is reinventing myself over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And my ability, like this last reinvention of myself and how I'm doing all these different activities, all these different projects, because I did come to a point where I was kind of coasting a little bit, because I was making lots of money and just kind of coasting. And then I had new people come into my life, and, it kind of re-energized me. And that's how I end up building these houses, getting to a lot of these different projects. And so, a lot of that is bringing me a lot of joy, because it's not just that I'm doing these things, but I'm seeing a lot of success, obviously, from also being around a lot of very, very highly successful people.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. One thing that I've seen as a theme is being around successful people, but we're going to start back to when Mark was Mark back in the day, right. Little Mark, right?
Before the bad guy.
Before the bad guy. How did you grow this concept of making money? How did that become a thing for you?
I grew up in a foster home. So I was actually living on the streets with my mother, who grew up on a Native American reservation in Minnesota. She had some trouble up there and kind of ran and fled that situation and came to Austin and kind of raised a family here. And doing so, we kind of grew up on the streets until I was 5, and that's when I moved to the foster home. Mm-hmm. And when I was 5, and my brothers and sisters, I have 9 of them total. Mm-hmm. But, I had 3 younger and 2 older at the time. So, what was the question? I'm sorry.
How did you go from being that to making money, and where did you switch?
Okay, so yeah, that's, sorry, I lost track. My mind just flies.
No,
but anyway,
it's okay, because I'm correct.
Yes, for sure. So, I've always been a hustler for money, and I've always been good with money because I never really had money. Mm-hmm. So the money that I had, I was always wanting to hold on to it, but I also wanted to kind of make more. I would say, from cutting yards to doing anything as a child, it was out of necessity, because growing up in foster homes in a situation, we weren't given lots of Christmas presents, lots of gifts, lots of clothes, shoes. Mm-hmm. We didn't really have a lot. So obviously you have to learn to get it on your own. Right. And so, yeah, I remember my first official job. Obviously I've done lots of jobs before then with yard work and just working with my hands, which is what my foster parents taught us a lot, is how to work with your hands and how to be hard workers, which I do think that goes hand in hand, working with your hands and becoming a hard worker. But I remember working when I was 15 at a popcorn stand at Robert Mueller Airport.
Yes.
Before Austin Bergstrom, it was Robert Mueller, and I worked there at the popcorn stand at 15. Because I was legally able to work. But before then, I used to catch the bus to Robert Mueller and return the carts for a quarter. And so I would rack up, I can't even tell you how much money I would make, but I would rack up a lot because there was another older guy doing it. He would be mad at me because I was out there hustling. Yeah, I was hustling, just trying to rack up carts for quarters. And so
do you recognize that that's unique? All of us don't grow up.
For sure. I do think that, agreed. I do think that the necessity really bred a lot. And that's what on the conversation here from Houston, where I was talking about, you know, being uncomfortable or being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And a lot of that, like, I try to encourage everyone. Like, my goal is to really help people have the faith in themselves that they can survive without someone else paying them. And so that's one of my biggest goals in life, is to really help people just really have that confidence in themselves to make themselves dangerous to the world. So, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's actually in a good way. But yeah, I do think that just circumstance and really plays a big part in a lot of that drive.
Okay. And so I'm trying to understand your mindset, and I'm being selfish here. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mindset around money, because it's something that conceptually I don't really get, right? I don't get the, like, first off, I get making businesses and trying to get money, right?
Yep.
But you, I believe, have an innate ability to look at something and be like, this is how it makes money, monetize it, and then actually make the money from it.
For sure.
So can you kind of walk, I need you to remedial level this thing, right? For someone.
So do we want to talk about this from a kid to get there? Or we're talking about it from here, from this standpoint.
Well, so let's talk about it for if we are a person who is struggling right now.
Struggling right now. So let's say I am a 20-year-old and I'm struggling right now. Yep.
And I don't really know my direction. But I know I have some skills. I have this. And then we're going to talk about, you know, your story of how did you traverse them? Because you went to college, you did different things, and you ended up here. But if you were a 20-year-old and trying to figure it out, and you said you need to be able to make money for yourself.
Correct.
How would someone who has no direction, no understanding, where would they start? Okay,
so where they would start is actually looking for direction. I think that in my assessment of the world, the biggest problem a lot of people have is they don't have direction and or they're not seeking direction. It's almost like Drake said, and I was trying to get it on my own. That's what everyone is embedded in all of our mentality, is just kind of do it on our own. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized the importance of finding direction and having mentorship. So for that 20-year-old, the first thing that I would employ them to do is to use all that drive and motivation and obsession, because it takes obsession. Use that obsession to go find the mentor that's going to give you the direction, because that's the biggest cheat code in life. I used to be a big proponent of going to college and doing the education route, but right now where I'm at in my life, I mean, I just know how to make millions just, directly. Like, it's almost like every single thing I touch and think is just, it just goes and it's working because actually I have the blueprint. Right. And as I help other people do that, I can see the similar levels of success because I'm just giving them the right direction. But kudos to them for consistently deciding to keep coming to me, as opposed to a lot of people will say, oh, I know you're busy, and they use those excuses as opposed to just, hey, what I'm missing is direction. Now, you can find direction on your own by actually just going and learning and doing things with trial and error, or you can go get it from that mentor. And so that's where the obsession comes in, to go say, hey, this is who I want to identify. This is who I want to kind of get direction from. Let me go be a valuable asset to this person. Let me continually show this person. Let me keep being in this person's sight, vision, where they go, where do they hang? Like, I want this direction. And to me, that is it's the ultimate cheat code to just making money, making a living faster. We're not just talking about making money. Everything I'm talking about is $1 million advice. It's not how to survive, pay your rent, do that. Like, every advice I'm going to give you is all about how to be a millionaire. And it's learning how to live life at a different level that's unlocked. And so I know a lot of this may not make a lot of sense, but I just want to set that as a preface.
No, I think that's great, because you said a couple of things, but one thing that you said was, it's not about survival. It's about actually, what you're talking about is a level of abundance, right? And you see that's like a word right now, it's abundance, but really you're talking about living at a level that's something that most of us growing up don't see.
For sure.
Right. And so can you take me, and we're going to talk about also how do people recognize those opportunities? But first, how did you go from Mark growing up in foster care to being able to recognize these opportunities and then also take advantage of them when you saw them?
So I guess life is really not about following your dreams. And we're taught growing up that life is about following your dreams, whether you want to be a basketball player, a baseball player or football player or whatever, like we're taught to follow our dreams, and we're so single-mindedly focused on following our dreams that we lose sight of what really life is about following opportunity. And that same football player, basketball player, baseball player, it has so much opportunity around them that doesn't include actually throwing the football, shooting the basketball, from the entire college system to the entire court, the ecosystem surrounding where billions of dollars are flowing. And there's so much opportunity around it that people are so focused on that dream, they don't recognize opportunity. And so that gets back to, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to look at everything around there, everything in this room.
Right.
Point to me something that's not $1 million business.
Something that's not a $1 million business.
From the filament in the light bulb to the floor, to the paint on the wall, to the vinyl that it takes to wrap this, to the tree that's outside that wasn't here that they brought it. Yeah. Point to me something that's not $1 million business.
That's a great question. I don't know that answer. I can't see anything right here in our space right now that is not $1 million business.
From the concrete outside,
yes,
to the lines on the concrete, to the paint that it takes to it, like I said, to the filament in the light bulb, to the grill that's on these, like all these things, everything around you is $1 million business. We're just not taught to spot opportunity. So what I'm saying is opportunity has always been around us. It's always been around us. We just didn't know how to spot it. But to learn to spot it goes back to what I first said, is finding direction and mentorship. So that's why my first advice is to let's go find the person that can give us that direction. Like the person who decided to make the filament in the light bulb didn't say, I grew up, I wanted to make the filament in the light bulb. He took advantage of opportunity. He put an ecosystem around it. People are looking for, I like to say C, but it's really more than that. And you're just B, and they know the process A, B, C, D, E, F to produce the deliverable G or whatever it is. And so that's why it's important to find that direction, because, you do here, in result. And within a week, like, your mindset changes from, because most people's mindset is to go to school, to go get a job with a 401k,
right,
and, make whatever from, I think the average right now is like 60, 70,000 to about 150,000. Obviously in Texas, I'm talking about Texas numbers, but we're not taught to say, how do I make that in a week? Or how do I provide make a company that provides 401ks for people, right, so that they can do that? And so a lot of it is just kind of re-indoctrinating yourself. And so my biggest mission right now is really helping people to not be afraid to reinvent themselves, because most people, I'm sorry, I'm dominating this conversation, and I just have a lot to say, especially about growth and these type of mindsets.
This is great, because
I'll let you go.
People won't have this opportunity. So don't think that you're talking as much, because I think that, we see Mark the millionaire, but we don't know how Mark became the millionaire.
For sure.
And we don't have the opportunity to hear from you and to understand where that confidence comes from.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're willing to and giving the story, it's going to be invaluable to people. So don't think that you're dominating, because I'm over here like, listen, let me take some notes, because I need to see how to take these opportunities that I can do what you're saying, because I would love to. But I can honestly tell you that I'm also the person that's like, I don't want to bother Mark because he's busy.
And I think that is what I hear from so many people. They're like, I know you're busy, and like, hey, you know what? I just saw an Instagram that I was sending around to a lot of my friends or whatever, showing them how billionaires, one of the biggest traits that the guy said when he assessed billionaires in his study was they assert themselves into things because they just want the result, and they just need to get it. And it is what it is. And so I do hear that passiveness in a lot of people when it comes to going after their dreams, and the timelines that they do is like, oh, I've been looking at this, I studied, and the difference is this other person just did it, and he kept being assertive, and then he was very successful. That's how most of these people became millionaires, honestly.
That's really great, because like I said, that's not something, even asking you to get on this podcast, I was like, man, he's out here making millions. What's he going to get on this podcast, this startup? And you said yes, right? Like,
that's crazy. It's crazy because everyone wants to get me on a podcast. A lot of people want to hear the story, the journey, get a lot of advice on a podcast. With Cheremma, we grew up together, obviously in East Austin. She lived not far from the foster home I was on. And I just was said, hey, I'm coming to Austin soon. Hey, let's do it. And I do make a habit of turning everyone down.
And
Everyone. I don't even know why they didn't say yes.
It's crazy,
to be honest.
because honestly, you know, and if I hadn't though taken the opportunity, then we wouldn't be here. And I think that that's just going to what you're talking about.
Exactly.
You could have said no, but what if you say yes?
That's right.
And then who's going to be blessed by this and be able to have the opportunity? So you have really saying yes turned me into like, okay, don't just sit back and say, oh, this person can be busy. If they're busy, they'll tell me no.
Correct.
And then how do you work through that? So let's talk about so you went to college, you took the traditional route, right?
Yes, I did.
First off, let's talk about how smart Mark is. Like, I think he's over here like, oh, he sees opportunities. You were like the valedictorian.
I was salutatorian of LBJ High School.
LBJ High School. And so he was like doing the right things, right? You went to college. What did you go to college for?
I went to University of Houston, and I went for electrical engineering and mathematics.
Okay. And so that already tells you where Mark is on this, because I did not go to school for mathematics. I can read and write, right?
Yeah.
But I say that because you took the traditional route first.
Correct.
Okay. And so you went into college. Were you as successful in college as you thought you would be? I
will say that early on, I was not as successful in college. And a lot of it was because there was a lot of distractions, especially because the way I left here thinking I'm never coming back to Austin. Like, this is it. I packed up my car because I saved up money in high school, and I bought multiple cars. You know, obviously they were $1,000, $1,500, just kind of beater type of cars. But I packed my car and I was like, I'm going to Houston. I'm just finding a new life. And so there, I was always smart, and I did good at math and other subjects I wasn't as interested in, like the geology and stuff like that. But there came a point in my life where it was a lady, her name was Miss Robbie Evans. And so she had a program for people like me, right, who for disadvantaged people. And it was a program in the college at the University of Houston called Urban Experience. And so with that program, she gave housing, books, meals, and a lot of things, because it was a point of my college career where I actually couldn't afford to go to college, and all my scholarship, everything was, and I still could not afford it. And so I took out every loan, everything, and I still wasn't going to be able to do it. And so I would say the year before, I just slept out of my car and I just couch surfed. So sometimes I had to sleep in my car. Sometimes I just couch surfed on different people's couches and whatever. And then I would say the next year, she, knowing my story and everything with the Urban Experience program that I don't think is there anymore, which I hate, because it really helped someone like me. But anyway, she took me into the program where she took my books, she took over my housing and stuff like that. But anyway, I would say I was about a year into the program, in which I remember she pulling me to the side, because obviously you have to do a lot to help back and, get back to the university and different things. And I remember one time she pulled me into the room and she said, Mark, the people that have the dot on their head, the Indian students, they're all like the 4.0 students. They all have high GPAs, but they're always the teacher's assistants and all that in the college system. She said, why do you think that they make better grades than you? Like, they're not smarter than you. Obviously, you can see your grades. You can see that you're very smart where you want to where you want to apply yourself. Why do you think that they're getting better grades than you? And why do you think that it seems like that they're smarter than you? Because obviously, in deep down inside, you kind of think that because they are getting these 4.0 grades, they know the solution to these problems like it's nothing. But anyway, she said, a lot of these people come through my program. Most of their families raise just enough money so they can get here. And I picked some up at the airport where they didn't even have barely any shoes on their feet.
Oh, wow.
And so, to be honest, Mark, they got nothing to go back to. So what's the difference between their situation and your situation? When I caught that epiphany, I went to literally pretty much a 4.0.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it just took a shift in mindset, the same ability, same everything. But I knew that inherently I had nothing to go back to. And, even if I studied 2, 3, or 4 or 5 hours to make myself feel good, they were studying 10, 11, 12, 13 a day. Well, what if I studied like that? Right. Which I decided to say, you know what? Well, this is what I'm going to do. And man, and they would come to me for answers. It was just a little shift in mindset. And, my college career really just kind of skyrocketed from that point, from every aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Oh, okay. So once you graduated from college.
I did. I graduated from college.
Then what was your dream job after college? Did you go do that, or what did you do?
So my dream job was to work in networking. My phone rings all day. I'm building so many houses. I'm actually building a new project here in Austin. Here it's going to be on the lake on 6.6 acres on Lake Travis here. But what was I about to say? So my dream was doing network communication. And so obviously being in tech, and obviously I graduated college in 2007. And so, obviously being in tech and working for Cisco, which was the human network, not the food company Cisco, but doing things like that. And so then I looked at the price of living in California, and I just, obviously I knew deep down inside that I was going to be an entrepreneur. Like in Austin, there was this program called the YEI program that Listelle's, a family member of mine, had got me into. She's a big advocate of mine, and I love her to death. And she got me into the YEI program. And, and that was about teaching entrepreneurship. And she'd always call me the next Michael Dell. That she would always say that. She would always say that. And so inherently, I kind of knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur deep down inside. And so I said, I can go do this where I'm doing something that I think that I like or whatever, because I'm not totally sure how it's going to be in the workplace, but I love doing this while I was in college and stuff. Obviously, you hear those statements from people who, obviously, like I said, a lot of these statements come from not enough information for the people who are saying these statements. There's not enough context, but saying, do what you do at this job or whatever. But I don't believe that to be true at this point in time in my life. That's why I'm saying that. But I ended up working oil and gas because it was they just paid more money. Right. And I remember, it was like, I think Cisco was paying right around the same price, but the cost of living, and I think out of college, I think I was at 75-ish, I think 73,000 a year at the time, starting off as a starting salary, which was obviously engineering was the highest starting salary of all bachelor's degrees. But I chose to stay in Houston and just get the money because I knew it wasn't going to, I was like, hey, oil and gas, we can figure this out. And I'll be working on my business the whole time until I get my exit plan. So that's kind of was my strategy. So did you create an exit plan and then actually execute that plan, or did you see an opportunity and you just went for it? No. Actually, this is like, I'm years in, and actually what happened was there was a guy who worked as a electrical engineer as well, and he had a going away party. So he had a going away event, and at the time he was making $30,000 a month. And I remember we would talk about doing this internet stuff because I was doing websites at the time, but he was doing the entire internet marketing ecosystem. He was doing more of the ecosystem, and so I didn't really understand at the time, but I knew that he knew things that I didn't know. I knew he wasn't smarter than me. I knew he was a smart guy because he was an engineer, but I knew he wasn't inherently just smarter than me where he has knowledge that I don't have. And so, he was a guy who, I remember his going away party. I went to his going away party. I think it was at Flying Saucer in Sugar Land, right by Florida. And I just remember that being my dream. It was my dream. Like, one day this is going to be me. I'm going to have my going away party. I'm going to have my business. I'm going to be living anywhere in the world free. And so, I kept, attaching myself onto that guy and kind of asking that guy to be my mentor, right? Anything he invited me to, I would always just kind of show up and whatever, because I recognized him as somebody who can help me. He knew things that I didn't know. And what I wanted to do was to know those things. And so, and so I would say it was about 9 months later, he had called me on my desk phone at Florida. He knew the extensions, how it worked. He called me on my desk phone. I think it was like 9 a.m. And, he said, hey, I got a business opportunity for you. Are you free today? And I think a lot of that stemmed from, because I would post on social media because I was doing a lot for foster children at the time. And I think a lot of that also stemmed from him watching what I was doing with a lot of foster children. I was part of the Friends of the Depiction organization, which is one of the largest independent foster children organization in the United States or whatever. And I was on the board of the Friends of the Depiction organization, where we did a lot raising money for foster children, as a lot of young professionals. But anyway, he hit my phone and he said, hey, are you free today? And I'm like, I'm free right now. It's 9 a.m. I got a whole day at work. He's like, no, just come out to work. Just come or whatever. Come out to work. Anyway, we end up meeting at McCormick and Schmick in Uptown Park in Houston. And man, it was so cliche because he wrote on a napkin. It was so funny because he wrote on a napkin this strategy that we were going to do. And I was like, wow. I've seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, and wow, and this is really it, and this is how you're making it. This time he's like, how much money do you think I'm making? He showed me he was making like $100,000 a week.
What?
And I'm like, oh, I'm in. And then he showed me the strategy on the napkin. I'm like, it was so cliche because it's on the napkin. He wrote it on the mark on the napkin. And yeah, that napkin was a blueprint to really just skyrocketing
everything from there.
Everything. And the money I made from I cashed my first $10,000 check. I literally worked a few hours. I would say probably 2 hours tops. And I cashed a $10,000 check. I would say in no time. But it taught me a very valuable lesson in life, that life is too short to struggle through life to figure it out on your own. Mm-hmm. The key is to get the answer from the people who have the answers, like mentorship, which is why I go back to the first thing I told you is direction, and finding direction is.
How do you have that confidence though, Mark? Like, how do you have the confidence? How do I approach Mark, the bad guy, and be like, Mark, help me figure this out? Because again, I'm coming from East Austin, right? I'm seeing you as, and I think that's sort of in our mindset, right? You grow up and you see people, you're like, well, I don't want to bother you, but can you help me? Yeah. And then you have that kind of pride. I don't want to really beg. So how do you have the confidence to set your ego aside and say, yeah, I'm trying to do this, and if you tell me no, I'm going to ask the next person? How do you find that confidence?
Like I said, to me, that gets back to the obsession. Mm-hmm. It's like when a woman is obsessed with finding something on a man, and she usually after a while finds it out because she's obsessed. Mm-hmm. Well, that's an unhealthy obsession, or maybe a healthy obsession if it helps him in their relationship and moving on. But there are healthy obsessions. Mm-hmm. Like Kobe Bryant had healthy obsessions that I would say were healthy obsessions, the way that he obsessed over it. And so to me, that's where it starts, identifying that this is what I need, and now I'm obsessed to get it. Okay. And I guarantee you, I'm going to find somebody that can help me with any of these things. There are people that are doing it, and that are millionaires that are doing it. I'm going to go find them. I'm going to go where they are. I'm going to hang. I'm going to the restaurant, the bar, the meetups, the LinkedIn groups, the Facebook. I don't care what it is. Reddit channels, YouTube community. It don't matter. I'm going to find them.
How do you? Okay, so this is what I've heard from other people who have been successful in the world you had, is that you can write out the blueprint for everybody, but there be a very small percentage of people who will actually follow the blueprint and then be successful. Have you seen, like, what are those people who are following the blueprint? What do they have, and then what do you see with them?
What I see with them is they are taking nothing that they brought from the past in with them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that people have, is they say, hey, I've worked at Shell, Chevron, Apple, whatever, and they're bringing all this in, where with this new, what we're teaching you, that's why most millionaires, to really teach people, they teach mindset and retraining the mindset first, because the mindset is the first thing holding everybody back, from the comfort level to all of that, where the people who follow the blueprint are the people who are going to just do it blindly. Say, you know what, this is the blueprint, let me follow it. Where the other person is going to say, oh, but let me do this, and I know this, let me add this, and I know this. And the problem with that is that, well, guess what? You don't know that, because that what you learn from the corporate structure, from the college system, from the high school systems, from just the education system in general, it was going to bottleneck you at this point, where this advice was not going to bottleneck you. And so they get to their bottleneck because they are bringing in things where I tell people, you need to take what you think that you know and all that, and throw that to East Austin.
I got you.
And like in Houston, I say, put it on 610 because you have to really start over and learn almost as a baby will learn. Yeah. You got to really relearn the English language and really redo that indoctrination that was done to you.
Now, you mentioned a couple of times about your mindset and having to change your mindset. Have you always been open to mindset changes to kind of make yourself better so that you can get what you want?
No. Obviously, that comes from continually putting yourself around different people and giving yourself different experiences to allow yourself to grow. And once you start to allow yourself to grow, that's when all these things start to change for you. All these mindset shifts, all these things. So obviously when you grow up in a community and you're like, oh, well, everything is kind of closed off and you like kind of shun everything out because you're living in a bubble. But then as you get introduced to more people and you bring those people in to that bubble and it grows that bubble until after a while, you realize that, hey, I don't want this bubble anymore.
Right.
I want to accept other points of view. And if I'm wrong, good. I'm ready to change instantly. And that's another conversation I had on the way here on the drive. I was with some people I had on the phone was how quickly what I realized a lot of millionaires and billionaires, when they get new information that is better and they know it's better, they change instantly. They don't have to say, let me read. No, they're ready to change overnight and things are different overnight. It doesn't take an act of Congress or like turning a battleship to get things to change. They want the change and they're going to get it now.
So you got to move at a faster pace.
100%. That is one of the biggest factors for success is to move at a much more accelerated pace. Like, have so many stories because I push people. I'm like, look, what you think takes 6 months, we can do that by this weekend or in 24 hours. And I remember recently, it was a woman who has a book coming out and she was telling me how, hey, we're doing this. I'm gonna have it done in 4 months. I said, if you're serious about this, you would have this done in 2 weeks. And she was upset. Like, Mark, you don't understand. I say, with the availability of AI and all these tools, and you're telling me this is what you want to do, you will have this done in 2 weeks. Otherwise, you're just playing. You just want to sound good. You want to just, you want to play the part, not actually be the part. You want to look the part instead of being the part. So she took that advice. And I remember, I would say it was about 2 or 3 weeks later, she was upset at my advice. But 2 or 3 weeks later, I remember she pulled me to the side in a bar and she say, you know, I want to tell you something. You really kind of hurt my feelings when you said that, but I finished the book and I did it because of you. And I'm glad that you pushed me to do it. And and to be honest, I want her to do it even faster and sooner because with the availability of AI and all these tools that allow us to ideate and to actually implement and to give us direction for all phases of implementation, we need to be able to bring our ideas out faster so that we're allowed to fail faster.
Yes.
And like I said, I always try to get people to iterate, to speed to iteration, not to speed to be perfect. Like people will think like, oh, like they're Steve Jobs and like, oh, let's make it perfect, make it perfect. But no, they need speed to iteration where they need to go ahead, make it, do it, make a mistake and iterate while that other person who is trying to just make it perfect hasn't even understood all the problems along the way where the other person was on the 4th or 5th revision that made it perfect.
Let me just tell you that I'm learning so much. I think that, you know, I brought you here to teach everybody else, but you're like speaking to the things that even just with this podcast, right? I'm like, hey, I want this to look like this. I want this to look like this. And at some point I'm like, no, you just got to do it. People say to me all the time, like, you just go out and do stuff. But I feel like I do it a lot slower and I'm still faster than a lot of people. But what you're saying is like, no, you need to exponentially increase your speed.
That's right.
And just do instead of try and figuring it out. And I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
At some point you got to do.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of paralysis by analysis. And a lot of people, to me, it's almost like a defense mechanism that I think people inherently are a little afraid. And the other people, like I said, what I want people to do is to just do it. Just like the way you send me the message, you know, just imagine a person who goes out there and then asks the mentor or whatever from day one, as opposed to someone say, oh, let me figure it out, let me do this, let me research, and they're 8 months, 9 months in, where that person learned all that day one. Well, where would they be in 9 months compared to the other person? Because they were too afraid to really ask for the mentorship and get that.
So do you still get afraid in opportunities?
Do I get afraid in opportunities? Yes. So I will say that the reason why I do get afraid in opportunities is because they're becoming so grandiose. Everything, and as I traverse life, it's getting so big. Like the beach house I'm building is, it's on the beach. It's 47-46 square foot framed. It's just a monster, almost on an acre on the beach, all the way to the beach. And it was scary because I've never built before, I've never developed before, but I'm not afraid to reinvent myself. And I did know that getting into development was another phase that I want to reinvent myself in. And so, Yes. Was I afraid? Yes. Not just because of the task at hand and that I'm not hiring the GC. I'm the GC. I'm doing everything. I'm going to do everything.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I'm not going to, and I'm going to have to learn all these skills, all these trades, all the way from the piles in the ground, which, you know,
Yes.
I have these 12 by 12 heifers with 0.60 CCNA. Like I have to learn all this stuff. You know, we're putting them 18 feet in the ground, 14 feet in the air because we had to be over base flood elevation. We have to learn all this. It's so much to learn with every aspect of the house, every aspect that, yes, it can. I'm not afraid of that. It was just, the money was involved was just, hey, this is going to cost you about $1.5 million. And honestly, there's no bank loans. It's all cash. And so it's like, man, I've really tried and failed at a lot of things. And, you know, I had previously just lost $170,000 cash and something that I just did in the trucking industry. And, you know, when this one came, it was like, damn, this is $1.5 million. And damn, it was scary.
Yeah.
So all I did was really trust my gut, trust everything that I knew I definitely had mentorship. And I identified that this was the person that I wanted the mentorship from, and they were the individual. Because a lot of people would tell me, I don't know, this is a lot. Like everybody wanted me to play it safe. But in my heart, I knew from everything I've been through in my life, everything that I carried with me, as big as I grew my bubble to really just understanding and learning about different parts of life, that this was the right person. And so that helped me take the leap of faith, to be honest. And also knowing that, hey, would I be more mad at myself if I tried and failed as opposed to I didn't do it at all?
Right.
Which one would I be mad at 5 to 10 years from now? And I knew that I'd be mad at the person who didn't try.
So you use your logic to get past your fear.
That's right. I use logic that, hey, you know, I'm not gonna be mad at myself. If I tried it, I gave it everything I had, and I failed. Right? Even like the travel company, all those things, and I failed at quite a few things. I'm not mad at that.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from that. But the fact that I, you know, dang, I wish I would have did it, or all those regrets, I know that it would have ate at me. So I decided to say, hey, I know how to make it. That's, if I mess up, we can make it again. We can, you know, it's that self-efficacy. It's that belief in oneself that really helped me.
So I'm glad that you said that, because you've spoken a little bit about your failures. What do you do when you fail? Does it take a shot at your confidence where you're like, dang, maybe I'm not good enough for this, right? What do you do when you fail and it's time to reinvent yourself or pivot? What do you say to yourself? How do you make it so that you just keep going?
So I will say, are we talking about this part of life? So in this part of life, I've got mentorship early, like that mentor. I remember one of the things he told me, my first mentor was like, fail and fail often. And the reason for that is so that you don't really know where the failure points are. Like in our head, if you say this is a failure, and so we don't approach that area, you'll never understand. But let's say we try to make it fail, you realize like, wow, that failure point was actually, I didn't even fail. So it takes that sliding scale of failure. And the more that I did that, I trained my mindset and things to, hey, let's take it to failure. Let's go ahead and make it fail, which is it's against school system teaches us, right? It's like, you know, we're so, don't fail it. And
running away from it.
That's right. Where it's like, I kind of retrain myself to, let's fail. Let's go see so that I can iterate. And on the next one, you know, it'll always
So how many
better.
people did you meet that think you're just crazy?
A lot of people. I mean, a lot of people meet me. And honestly, at this point in my life, so early on, I would tell people a lot of this stuff and they were like, no, you'll never get there. Yeah. Almost even from friends, family, everybody. So that was a problem early on where it's like, wow, really? You're going to make that kind of money? $100,000 a week? You're going to do that? You're going to make that in a month? You can like, no way. Like, obviously some kid from East Austin, whatever, obviously in the environment I was in, but I knew, and I saw the direction, I saw the people, I saw the money, I knew I could do it. And then now on this side, when I'm telling people about it, it's so grandiose that it's unbelievable. Yes. You know, and say, hey, you can make $100,000 in a day, you know, and people are like their minds are blown where it's unbelievable. So from this side, it was like, you know, you're not going to make it. And that's unattainable. Yeah. Then on this side, when I speak to people, it's like, really, what are you running game? You trying to impress me? Like, what are you, like, is it a scam? Is it, you know, because it is a lot of scammers out there, and I can acknowledge people's fears when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So, yeah, I kind of, I mean, even when I'm like, my message is almost too grandiose. I remember giving a speech at the University of Texas to the football team when they first got the ability to do NIL deals. I know Vince Young, and he had brought me out there to the university, and I was telling these players how they can make millions of dollars on themselves and not focus on getting money from other people like that, because that's what I'm good at. That's what I was doing, and I was whatever. And so, you know, it was so big for them that they were like, no way, not me.
Right.
And so what I'm saying is, even from a college star standpoint, they really couldn't even see it. And then I remember going to a high school, and I'm just telling these, because everybody else telling these kids to go get a Job Corps, go get jobs, go to the military. I'm like, man, y'all could really be making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in the next, you know, 6 months to a year or 2 years max, whatever. And if you do this, and no one believed me. They just could not believe me. And I'm showing them the numbers. I'm showing them like, hey, look at what we're doing, and kind of giving them game. And it was just so grandiose. So like I said, there's two opposite sides
of that.
To that.
So when you talk to people, how many people actually listen?
Man, I've just come to a point in my life where that's part of being the bad guy. My transition to the bad guy, I just started giving I just really just wanted to I feel like at this point I can be a billionaire, and for me to get there, it really takes me tapping into the inner bad guy who really doesn't care about other people's opinions and kind of over explaining to people why I'm doing this and this. It's like, hey, I'll just be the bad guy. Let's just keep it going. And so I would say that the people who do have access to me, obviously from the depth of knowledge that I give them, they obviously are going to take that in.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't take action because obviously, like I said, from the indoctrination, they're not really action-oriented people. They want to overthink. They want to bring their corporate America, whatever it is. They can't really just get started. But most people, even those people, are so inspired and like, hey, I love your story. I see it is obtainable, but
not for me, right? Is that what it is?
It kind of is, but for most part, they're just slow at taking steps.
Okay.
And I don't know what it will take for them to be faster in those steps.
And you can't worry about it, right?
No, exactly. I'm more like, hey, I got all these big projects that I'm working on in unison and parallel. Like I started a brand new Amazon brand, I would say, in February, and we're already at $1,200 a day on Amazon sales. And that's just, and it's brand new, no big brand behind it. It's just all using what I know and just applying it to a new product. And then we got 2 more products coming out right now that are on the way. And, I project, honestly, $50,000 to $100,000 a month for each of those.
That's crazy to me. Like that's crazy to me. You know what I mean? And I think that and when I say it's crazy, I know that it's true, right? When I say it's crazy, I'm like, I'm believing you, right? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's because your energy is in the room, right? And I'm like, nah, what he's talking about is real life. And even for a person like me who will move, right? Who will say, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
It's like, that dream is big, right? And so I wonder, because you can't bring everybody along with you, right?
For sure.
And so you've got family, you've got friends who see this.
That's right.
Why aren't they just following you, Mark?
That's a good question. Honestly, that is a good question. That's something that I don't have the answer to. So I can't speak on any one of their behalf. And so what I do know is that as I was trying my best to kind of bring everybody along, that inherently it really slowed my pace down to where I'm at. Like even 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't have these big beach house projects and things and all these buildings and things that I'm doing in development work. Like I'm building a pickleball facility in Pearland. I'm building one in San Antonio. Here is 55,000 square feet. About I think it's on 4 acres. The one in San Antonio here. I mean, a lot of this stuff I wasn't even doing a few years ago, but a lot of that was also because of people I was consistently around. When I changed my environment to completely just kind of be around just high energy, high net worth, high functioning people, honestly, every day concatenated on the previous day so much faster, where, man, just my wins were just really winning. And I'm definitely winning right now. Yes.
And so It's so interesting because it kind of brings into the law of attraction and things like that. And not being able to take everyone with you. I feel like that's like people come at it as a negative thing. Like you have to punch people in the face and be like, get away from me.
Yeah.
But I think that what you're saying is at some point your energy has to take you in the direction that you want to go. And if somebody's willing to put in the work, and ask the questions and be there and do what's supposed to happen, then they can come.
For sure. But and I think that was one of the biggest problems was most people just don't want to put in the work. They say, you got a blueprint, teach me, unless it's almost like growing up, you're taught to streets with like drugs, right? And people put people on easily by fronting them drugs, doing this, and it's almost like an immediate impact, and now they're whatever. So people have that similar type of mentality for putting on, where what I'm talking about, it takes you to dive in these books, dive in these courses, dive in what we're doing, dive in learning these CRMs, ecosystems, all these things that make it that you have to dive into. Right. And it's not like a formal education, but you really got to you got to know it. You got to dive in here and learn it almost like you are going to law school without the law degree or going to medical school without the medical degree. And you really have to get in. And most of these people aren't willing to do that because they just want the kind of like the drug dealer type of put you on type of mentality. And
that's what I think that when they hear you say, OK, you can make $10,000 in a day. Right. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, drug dealers do that. Right.
Yes.
But I don't think that people...
Some people told me I was a drug dealer. I'll never forget, I'm out popping bottles, and one guy was very adamant that I was a drug dealer.
That's the only way you can make that money. Bro.
That's
I wonder, like, because we discount the hard work, right? Like, I think that if you say, Cheremma, you can go and I can teach you how to make $10,000 a day, but it's going to take you 5 hours a day for 10 days and then 3 hours a day for this long, right? If people hear that, then it starts at that $10,000 doesn't sound that great anymore.
Now you're also talking 5 hours a day. I'm talking about 15 hours. I'm talking about, I do this consistently. I'm up 11, 12, 1, talking to China. I'm tired throughout my entire day. And I'm talking to China, which I'm getting a lot of my supplies there because it's actually almost 1/10 the cost. And, you know, obviously with the logistics and everything, but yeah, 5 hours, that ain't enough.
Yeah.
If you really want to get to what I'm talking about, it takes more than that. Almost like what Kobe said. He talked about how he would start earlier and practice from like 4 or 5 times a day for 2-hour sessions. That's 8 to 10 hours a day for him to learn his craft, where, like he said, in 6 months, I'm 4 or 5 years ahead of you.
Yes.
When you're only doing 2 hours a day. So in 6 months, I'm 4 or 5 years ahead of you. No matter what you do, you can't catch up. And it's that same mentality that we're putting into everything that we're doing.
And I think the work ethic, and I feel like there's this idea that it has to feel good, right? That it's going to feel good to me to do it. And that if it doesn't feel good, I don't want to do it. But I don't know a person that I've come across that is making money who just feels good about it all the time. People want to say that, oh, it is dedication and motivation. I think it's just a commitment to being consistent. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this because this is what needs to happen. How do you can you teach that to someone? Especially what I'm talking about is more like young people, but even to a person who feels like there's no hope. Is there hey, be consistent and see what happens?
Consistency is not enough. And I think that a lot of these things get overdone, saying in a simplistic form, and it's not enough context. Like I said, a lot of these advice people giving them, like be humble and all that, there's not enough context there because that's not true. Being humble will not get you there. I don't care who's telling you that. Being humble will not get you there. It is what it is. And like, who's telling that advice? But consistency is a part of the equation. Right? But you have to have a why. Why am I staying up late? Why am I waking up early? Almost like a woman who has cancer and has to go vegan, right? There's a why there. She wants to live so she can see her grandchildren or her daughter or whatever. She has a why where she's going to be vegan, where I won't last a day or two. Right? Because she has a why. And that why is a big difference to, you can be as consistent as you want, but also if you don't have the right direction, it doesn't matter. That's true. Right? if you're over here doing these things, I'm like, you're doing stuff from 2015.
Yeah.
You're doing online stuff. You're doing radio ads. You're doing whatever you're doing. You're talking about SEO from 2020. Like, man, what? We're leveraging real AI tools to really recursively do this. Actually talk to the Google bots, right? We're doing rich snippet data. We're using JSONs. We're doing things that all this you don't even see.
Yeah.
Right? And most people, they don't, without the right direction, if they just do it based on what they research and what's freely out there, well, you're only going to learn that, like I said, from those people who know how to do it because they know how to get it fast.
Yes.
Like, I can start any business and have that jumping. Actually, I did a podcast myself and like marketing it, and we got to top 60 in the world. Literally in like I would say, it was a podcast ranker. They said, hey, you reached top 60. Number 1 in personal journals, number 5 here, whatever in the world. I was like, wow.
Right.
It was crazy, but it's because I just used the same blueprint.
So this is interesting because right? I got a podcast and I can figure that out. But like really conceptually, that I like the fact that you said about the direction, because I'm just going to use a personal story right here. I'm trying to do this podcast, trying to learn how to produce it and do some different stuff with the video. I have no idea what I'm doing. I can watch YouTube videos and it can take me 52 minutes to try to sift through that video. And I might have gotten like a smidget of the answer that I need.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've spent an hour and it's not even what's going to get me to it. So now I have to spend 10 hours.
That's right.
And I'm being consistent.
That's right.
Right. And I'm working toward it. But then I could just go find the person and say, hey, can you tell me how to do this real quick?
That's right.
And you just give me the blueprint. I'm willing to do the work, but I need the blueprint.
That's right.
And it could take me them 10 minutes to show me what I've just spent 10 hours to do.
That's right. Which is why consistency is not enough.
And I think that that's really an important point. I actually hadn't thought about it that way, except that I was really just doing that YouTube thing. And I was like, I got to go find somebody because it's wasting my time and I'm not getting what I need out of it.
Because you don't have the right direction.
Yes.
I mean, my YouTube channel has lots and lots of views. Like one of my channels, we have over 3-point-something million followers, and where we reach millions and millions of people weekly. And a lot of that, my work process is so smooth that it's like bam, 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 everything. Because I mean, obviously, I have a work process that is just so fluid and fast that it doesn't take a lot of time, to be honest.
No, I think that's awesome. I'm going to be respectful of your time, so I'm going to ask you a couple more questions.
All right.
What's the most lucrative thing for you right now?
I would say the marketing stuff, because it just dings, and the Shopify stuff just comes in on autopilot. It's hard because I'm just making so much money in different ways, where this one I may have a valuation, that one I don't have a valuation, because once you get real high level mentorship, you're not just looking at profit, sales, you're looking at the valuation of the company, right? Which is almost like a 10x multiplier on your revenue.
Yes.
And so once you understand that, you can, you're making different type of decisions, right? Even if you're just breaking even, but the valuation, what you sell it off at, is just different. So it's hard to really pinpoint a lot of that. But I will say that definitely this development that I'm doing, building properties from the ground up, is very profitable. Obviously, I think I'm going to be about 1.5 million in on my beach house, where I think I'm really around 1.35 to 1.4. But it'll be worth $3.5 to $4 million, and this is almost like an 8-month process or whatever. And so, just seeing so many opportunities and taking advantage of that, and doing these in parallel and leveraging against it, and using. I mean, to me, it seems to be the most lucrative thing.
And actually, I have 2 questions. We didn't talk about Mark the Bad Guy.
Okay, go ahead.
So what does Mark the Bad Guy mean? Because I don't feel like you're a bad guy, right? Well, when you say Mark the Bad Guy, what's that mean?
Let me see. So I just remember in corporate America when I had a clean cut. I was always clean cut. I was always kind of that guy who always was clean cut. I always made sure I had a lineup, a fade, all the above. And I remember a guy told me, hey, Mark, why don't you get a mohawk? And I was like, how many Supreme Court justices, how many, judges, how many lawyers, doctors, that's not a professional cut. And it's not a professional way of, handling yourself. And I remember just hearing myself say this, and I'm like, really, is this really me, or is this a representative of myself that I want the world to see, so that they can say that I'm good and I'm complying with the world? And I remember it was all these epiphanies that came where eventually I realized that on planet Earth, I came to the absolute conclusion on planet Earth that good guys finish last.
Mm-hmm.
And it is what it is, almost like good girls finish last.
Mm-hmm.
And, Eleanor Roosevelt, she has a famous quote that says, well-behaved women seldom make history. And, a lot of, for women even to wear a lot of things that wear today, women had to be chastised because women had to wear things past their ankle. And obviously the bad women, the bad girls had to take the slack throughout history. And so what I could say is, for me to get to where I needed to go, I knew that I had to not just conform to what the world wanted me to conform to. So it bred being Mark, the bad guy.
I hear you.
And the bad guy just stopped giving about over-explaining things. Just like, oh, well, no, this is why I'm doing this, why we need to do it this way. And people don't know. They're like, you know what? I don't have time for that. I'm just the bad guy. Let's keep mushing. For like a person who needs to make a decision, their mom don't agree, their sister, their family, whatever, don't agree, and they know that, hey, just go, It's almost like, Steve Jobs, he has a quote with Apple. They did a promotional experience, I think in the 80s, where they talked about thinking different. And they had a whole commercial about rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in a square hole, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, glorify, or vilify them, but what you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And to me, I needed to tap into that version of myself. And now, like, obviously we all have levels that we do care, because I don't want even people say that, but just the less that we care. I walk in rooms with my arms wide like this, and that's, this is how I walk in places.
Yeah. And I think that, you hear bad guy, but what you're talking about is just, I can't care enough about what people have to say, because if I do that, it limits me in my ability to move forward.
Agree. But that also applies in the workplace, right? When because a lot of people are being a suppressed version of themselves and a condensed version of themselves in the workplace, because their ideas and everything they're doing are being suppressed, because they can say, hey, they can bring it to their boss, and they say, no, next quarter, next year, bring it up, whatever. They just tell them no and just shoo you out of here, where you really need to iterate on that idea. Whether you're successful or you fail, you learn and you grow, and you're not allowed to. But because you can't push the issue, because you need to be good in the workplace, you are limiting your opportunities. And I remember when I decided to be the bad guy, I was still in corporate America at the time, and I didn't care anymore, because I was already making lots of money, that I would push it.
Yeah.
And I just remember I would have never did that had I had that other mindset. But because I didn't care, I'm like, go ahead, fire me.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll take unemployment. I don't care. While I, which is the tip, just getting it free while I'm on my way out. That was and they were like, oh my God. We knew he didn't know what he was talking about. I'm like, most people wouldn't talk to that type of person like that, or push back at that level where you standing on it, well, like, fire me, I'm not doing it, or this is not right, and whatever, because they live in a corporate structure. And so that also suppresses people, even in a corporate America structure. And so once I harnessed that, even in corporate America, I actually got more advances faster, because I harnessed that until a point when they were like, all right, you know what? You're too much. You're too much.
That makes sense. Okay. And so you mentioned earlier that your goal now is to teach people how to do this in some way. Do you have?
No, one of my goals, like I said, is a few goals, right? To get people to not be afraid to reinvent themselves, because life really is about not being afraid to reinvent yourself. Almost like a rapper from the 2000s who had the same flow, same everything, but they're too afraid to reinvent themselves, that they're just hanging on to that same flow they've been doing, and they're just surviving. And I got that from Andre 3000. I watched something from him, and it really encapsulated. I was like, wow, that's how he explained it. And I was like, you know what? That is exactly what I'm trying to portray onto people. then also helping people have the faith in themselves that they can survive without someone else paying them. So those are kind of two things that
and how are you doing that?
Well, number one is leading by example, right? And showing how what I'm doing, but also being transparent, right? As I'm posting these things, I'm making a lot of content, a lot of videos, and all of it. I don't have anything, no paid course, no nothing, no anything like that. It's all just,
it's all free game.
It's all free game because it's enough. Like I said, everything around you is $1 billion business, from those trash bags to the trash can. Don't matter. Everything you see, it's enough for everybody as long as they're willing to really accept it. So, yeah, a lot of it is actually showing the progress, also not being humble, like, hey, we're doing this. Like I said, look, we just got a new Amazon store, $1,000 a day. Right now, we're working to get to 5,000 a day and maybe 10 to 15 by the end of the year. And, you know, I'm like, hey, I'm showing people, hey, well, some people might say you're bragging, but hey, there's going to be a lot of people who say, you know what? Wow, I saw him when he started from getting on my phone. I have so much stuff going on always. Pre-book launch. Let me just do that. But anyway, yeah, so.
All right, so last question. This is always the last question. Well, actually, there are two questions. One, what does good enough mean to you right now?
What does good enough mean? Can you explain that further?
So we're good enough today, right? Where this is right now, what I am is going to be good enough for me to propel this forward. It's not comparing me to yesterday or tomorrow. Right now, what I got, if I got 30%, I'm giving 100% of 30%, right? And that's going to be what I have, and that's going to still push me forward. So for you, and that can look different for a lot of different people.
Yes.
So what is good enough for you?
I mean, good enough for me is just knowing yourself. Like you said, everyone has a scale of what good enough is, and everybody has different physical abilities, mental abilities, and it's really knowing yourself, saying, hey, if you know I could do more, if I know I'm not maximizing myself, then obviously, you know, what you did was not good enough. And that's all just an internal thing. But when you can feel satisfied and say, man, I really work more toward my capacity as a human being, then to me, that's good enough. It obviously is a sliding scale for everybody from ages, size, man, woman, whatever. But yeah, to me, it's really understanding yourself in that way.
That's awesome. I hate the fact that I say that's awesome all the time, but so it irritates me. But it's one of those things. Last question: what would you say to the person, young, old, whatever, that wants to make a change, and they need the advice, and you got a few seconds to tell them? What's the one thing that you would tell that person that would change their life?
The one thing that I would tell that person to change their life, let me think on this for a second. Man, there's so many different ways to change your life. One obviously is, because you said one thing to change your life. It's hard because there's so many different ways to do it, and they all mean something to the bigger, greater scale.
A couple.
I'm trying to think here. Well, obviously AI is such a big tool, and we're leveraging AI in so many different ways to produce deliverables. The one thing though, I mean, obviously that's a thing that we can do, and there's so many other things, like we can put a CRM system together. We can put just a lot of things to whatever. We can find things cheaper by going to China and other places, going directly to the manufacturer, learning that process, learning imports, customs. So like I said, that there's so many different things, and I know those all make money, but the one thing I guess would be just a shift in mindset, and that's to believe in yourself that, hey, I can do this. I don't have to just be pigeonholed into, I was a teacher. I grew up, from school system, I allowed myself, and I got all my education training to just be a teacher or a nurse or wherever you're at in life. It don't matter. I work at FedEx, Apple. It don't matter. Just to not be afraid to say, hey, let's do something different. And I'm going to give it all I got with all the information I have today. I'm not 16 trying to make an adult decision. I'm not 21 trying to make what I want to do. I'm really 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. It doesn't matter. You can really make a change for yourself, and just believe in yourself. And a lot of that just obviously takes just being vulnerable, like you said, taking your pride, your ego, putting that on in East Austin on 610 or whatever and saying, hey, let me go get the answer from the people that got those answers, and then let me implement exactly the way they told me. Let me not change a thing. Let me do exactly what's going to get the results the way that they told me, and let me duplicate. And the school system doesn't teach you. They teach you copying is bad and all that's bad. But in the real world, that's what we do. We copy off what works, copy off people's papers. So, I guess that would be my one big advice, is to really believe in yourself and get speed, more speed, do it faster. Doesn't need to be perfect. Speed to iteration, speed, get it out to iterate, make it better. That will change your life.
I think that, I was going to say is awesome. I just said I don't like to say that, but I thank you. Like, I really am, not only for just showing up, right? You didn't have to, but the things that you're saying, somebody's going to hear this and it's really going to change their life. I think my life will be changed just from sitting down with you and understanding that it doesn't take perfection, right? It takes just moving forward and doing it at a speed so that you can fail. I always say that I'm not afraid of failure, but once I get close, I'm like, well, you know, that feels a little uncomfortable right now. And so thank you for just putting this message out there. We are kids from East Austin.
That's right.
Just trying to figure it out. And I think that people need to hear it from us, right?
That's right.
So
I agree.
I really do appreciate that. And I'm glad you were in Austin. It's just, kind of lined up, right? And so I want to make sure that everybody knows where they can find Mark at. You can find him on YouTube. What's your YouTube?
Well, everything, I'm at Mark the Bad Guy. You can just at MARK the Bad Guy. You can that's kind of how I branded myself everywhere. And that's where I want to put everything as Mark the Bad Guy. And then my main overall company is Inventive Exposure, INVENTIVE EXPOSURE. I wasn't good at English, but Inventive Exposure. That's kind of like my overarching business entity or whatever. But you can find me Mark the Bad Guy anywhere. I don't bite.
He really doesn't. He's an awesome person. And I just want everybody to remember that this has been an amazing conversation. Please connect with Mark and remember that you can change your life and do the things that you need to do. But we do it as a community and it's not in isolation. So please, please, please stay hopeful for tomorrow. But remember, right now, today, you're good enough.
Hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today. Oh yeah, hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today.